Good evening. This is Dale Lamb with Gardner-Webb University. This is Mels 605. This is our sixth weekly session, the night of June 22nd, Wednesday, 2016. I don't have any participants yet, but I'm going to go ahead and get started as the time is upon us. The first thing I wanted to start with tonight is a review of TaskStream. I've had several questions and some issues pop up this week, and so I'm going to do a review with you again about TaskStream. You should be closing in on completing your portfolio. Please remember that the drop-dead date for the portfolio is July 14th, which is only about 3 weeks or so away. So this is timely. You need to be cognizant of that time. The only two components that reviewed this semester were 5E and 6F. Certainly you should have completed those, and then you would need to put together your final evidence narratives along with any artifacts that you attach separately, and then complete your summaries and descriptors. To that end, let me go to share screen. See what we get. Okay, so you should be seeing a TaskStream screen. This should be your work screen. As you can see over on the left-hand side of the screen, by now you should have submitted all of your components for the app cell for not only comments but for evaluation. This last box is the one I want to make sure that everybody understands. There's a last box for each of the 6 evidences. At the end of all components, there's a box that just says AppCell, AppTel, OMA, Skip, Cap, PsyOp. When you click on that one, you upload your final evidence summary document. That document contains all 5 of the components of that particular evidence, but you put them in one document. And make it look like you wrote that document at one time. Now, to assist you in that, if we were to look at TaskStream tools, I'll go to a new share. Back to Blackboard. I'll have to stop that share and do a new one. Let's see what we get now. All right. Let me change over to this one. All right, you should be seeing TaskStream Tools now. So if you look under TaskStream Tools, I have a folder here with templates to assist you with putting together your final evidence narratives that contain all the components. It's not a great deal more than just merging all 5 documents together, but make sure you have a cover page, make sure that you have an abstract, and that's usually the same thing that you write as your summary in TaskStream, that you have one compiled reference list at the end of your document, that you don't have one separate one for each of the components, and things like background description, the setting that you might have in multiple components, take that out where there's only one at the beginning before you start your components. But I do have a document here to help you with that. Also, when you open up that final evidence where you submit that final narrative and any artifacts that you have, there's a button that says complete form. That's where you put your summaries and descriptors, and I'll show you that again in just a second. Let me go back to that in TaskStream. So it says form DPI evidence 1. Usually over here to the right of the screen, there's a box that says complete form, or sometimes it just says DPI evidence 1, it just says form, and you click on that. But that's where you put your summary and descriptors. So when you click on that, I don't know if you can see that box that pops up, but it asks you for a 3-part summary, and it asks you to write each of the descriptors. Usually you wrote those in your papers as you went, and it's just a copy and paste. So if we go back to the tools that I have for you in Blackboard, you will see writing task trees and summaries and descriptors. And it tells you step by step how you should write a summary. You just answer the question, and descriptors 5 sentences. I won't go over those with you again. You've seen those before, but please remember, for each of the 6 evidences, when you get to that final submission, the comprehensive final submission, you have to have a comprehensive narrative that has all the components, but you also have to put your summary and descriptors in there separately. Now, if you don't know what they're asking you or what they look like, I also have a document here that's accomplished summaries and descriptors. The purpose of that is to show you what they should look like. And so this task stream tools is a good page. It has a lot of things in here. It has exemplars of what the final one should look like. Has my notes, has all of those things in there. So please make sure that you get those final submissions. Make sure you get those final submissions done. And again, there's one for the AppSell, AppTel. They're all the same. There's one at the end. And this is one of my interns, and you can see she has her final document here. And then she also has artifacts that she generated by the work that she did during that time that she did that component. So that's the first 6 evidences. Now, let me go over this licensure box with you again. The first thing in the licensure box is your internship log. Once you have 400 hours, you get your principal to sign it, you scan it back in, you upload it in here, and you submit it for evaluation once you have the 400 hours in your principal's signature. Now, the 2 people responsible to grade that are your internship supervisor and your evaluator. They will do those. The second is the licensure evaluation that you can see right here. Again, because it has a green lock on it, that means you don't have anything to do there. Once all 6 of your final evidence narratives and submissions are done, each of the final 6, that's the ones we're talking about here, for example, the SIP. Once all 6 of those are in for evaluation and have been evaluated, again, the same 2 people, your internship supervisor and your evaluator from Gardner Webb will go in and give you an overall licensure score, which is an overall score of the 6 evidences together. Once that is done, let's come down to the third thing here in the licensure box is certification of competency. Somebody requested comments on that this week. Don't request comments on those. Again, because it has a green lock, that means it's not you. The persons responsible to do this one are your internship supervisor and your site supervisor / principal at your school are required to do that. Now, if they have both done it, but your score hasn't shown up, probably it's because it hadn't been reconciled yet. But you need to be in contact with your internship supervisor, and they in turn should contact your principal or should contact your evaluator from Gardner Webb to make sure that they fulfill their part of the bargain here. Your internship supervisor is the key person. They send the prompts and the reminders to those other 2 people who are evaluating in this licensure box. So again, internship log, you submit your log, your internship supervisor and your evaluator from Gardner Webb grade that. You have nothing to do other than get your 6 evidences in, and once that's done, your internship supervisor and evaluator from Gardner Webb will grade those. And remember, they have to be reconciled by Dr. Shellman. And then the third is the certification of competency. Your principal / site supervisor and your internship supervisor are the 2 people who do that. If you're having any problems with those, if you don't see that those have been completed, you need to get in touch with your internship supervisor and get them on it. Again, we only have 3 weeks. And Dr. Neal's email was very clear. Even though you might have done your part, if these other folks haven't done theirs, you will not. On July 14th, you will not get through this summer. So make sure that you get in touch with your internship supervisor to make sure these things are done. University dispositions, you should have a golden lock on all 3 of those. That means that you had to submit yours there, and then your internship supervisor, once you did that, they were able to do the other half of those. Now, there's green locks on your site supervisor dispositions. They can go in at any time and do those. If they don't have directions to do those or don't remember their username and password for TaskStream, get in touch with your internship supervisor immediately so that they can get them that information. Those have to be done as well. I won't get into the ethical concerns of we're holding you back because somebody else didn't do their part. All we know is according to Dr. Neal, if it's not done, it's not done. So you need to get after, it's part of leadership, is to get after these people and make sure these things get done. It's a good lesson in leadership. Excuse me. So if you have any questions and you can't get in touch with your internship supervisor, just send them to me, and I will assist you in making sure that you get these things done. But you should be getting close to wrapping up. Again, you got 3 weeks. You should be right in the heart of getting these final evidence narratives together and getting them in for evaluation and making sure that you understand that you have to write the summary and descriptors before they'll be evaluated. I'm going to change to a different view. I hope that you'll stay with me here. So again, when you click on that final one that just says App Cell, you should have a box over here to the right that says Complete Form, and that's where you put your summary and descriptors. Again, if you have any questions, send me an email immediately. Get out of that. Go back. Now, looking at our weekly schedule, we're on week 6 now. Constructive discipline, program evaluation, and self-awareness and leadership style. I have an activity, a PDF, where you can do an activity online. On this week, it's the Johari window with the PDF, rather than just the one that says Johari window. The one that just says Johari window just is a brief explanation of the areas that you can know, known to others and not known to others, known to self and not known to self. This is what the Johari window looks like. But I also have on there, if I had some people online with me, we would play along tonight. But since I don't, that'll cut that part of it out. So I won't go through it. I won't bore you. But if you would like to participate in this activity, you can go to our 605 and go to the weekly schedule. And you can open that one up. So if you went to weekly Zoom session 6. And if you see this one that says Johari Window PDF, you can go there and play along. That's the audience version if you'd like to find out about yourself. So I have that for you there. And since, again, I don't have anybody with me tonight, I won't bother to do that. Now, the other things that we had tonight on our weekly schedule, we had self-awareness, and that's Johari Window, so you can do that. Program evaluation, I do want to look at that one, but I want to look at it a little bit differently than from a leadership perspective. I want to look at it from a management perspective. We have plenty of things in the leadership literature about doing program evaluation from a leadership perspective, but I want to do a quick and dirty with you on a management one. And so when we talk about doing program evaluation, we need to have a rubric. There needs to be a metric or a rubric a standard, and it needs to be written down in terms of what we're looking for. This one is the reason I'm using it tonight. It's very cut and dried. This is when the state comes and does an audit, or when the fire marshal comes to your building and does an audit, this is what they use. This is the metric. This is what they're looking for. This is the way you do a program evaluation. You have to have cut and dried things. It can't just be open-ended, subjective kind of things. So this is for a campus fire marshal audit or a state safety audit when the state comes out. If you're on a PDS watch list, or if you're a school to watch, or if you're looking for an award or super safe school or something of that nature, when an auditor comes out, they have a list of things. This is how you do a program evaluation, is you have a list of things that would be the ideal, and they're written down, and they're accepted by a group, or their best research practices, or the state sends them to you, or the Office of Civil Rights. But you have a metric when you do program evaluation, and it's standardized so that it's objective, not subjective. A lot of what we do in our business is subjective when we're doing program evaluation from a leadership perspective, but when we're doing it from a management perspective, one of the things I wanted to point out tonight is when we talk about leadership versus management, we're not saying that management is a lower level skill. We're not saying that management isn't needed. What I'm telling you is management is also part of the job of being a school leader. And you have to set objective criteria. So you may have to make your own, but usually there's some already out there when you're doing program evaluation. So this is one, when the fire marshal comes out once a year and walks around with custodian and assistant principal, and many of you, that'll be your first job. Assistant principal, you'll get to do fire drills and make sure the teachers have their class roll, their power school roster. But when the fire marshal comes around once a year, you'll have to go with the custodian. This is what they'll be looking for. If we go back and you remember your 603 class, 115C 288, duties and responsibilities of the principal, you're to have, every month you're to have a fire drill, and twice a month you're supposed to check and make sure that there's no fire hazards. You're supposed to use this inventory. So going back to the point of this tonight is when you're doing program evaluation, the most important thing is to have objective criteria that can be measured and you can see, and it's generally a yes, no, true, false kind of thing. And so I have this in here tonight. There's no need for me to sit and go through all of it, but you'll see how comprehensive it is. This might be something you'd be interested in keeping, because, again, your first assistant principal job, you're going to have to do this with the custodian. But it's a great example of how a program evaluation is done from a management perspective. It's my best example and the clearest cut one. You can kind of see from looking good, oh, this is what would be expected in a program evaluation. All right. I also have the crisis box and a PDF that goes along with that. Again, another excellent example of a program evaluation from a management perspective is your crisis box and your emergency procedures. Might be low level, might be managerial, but it is required by state law. But again, that's not my perspective for having you see it. You've already had the law course. My perspective is for you to learn how to do program evaluation and to see that there has to be objective criteria set by some industry standard, by research, by a group, and that's the whole the crisis box is set by a national group that is recognized as an expert in that. So that's why we co-opted that in North Carolina, and we have made it a part of school law, is that you have to follow that PDF when you're putting together your crisis box. North Carolina adopted that as the standard. So that's an example. The state made this rubric or this metric, but they adopted, when you look at the crisis list on the PDF form, they adopted that when it was already there. They didn't have to go back and reinvent the wheel. They found a nationally recognized organization and adopted their metric on crisis box and crisis response. So that's the way program evaluation is done. Either you create your own metric or you adopt one that's been created by a national or authority. But the main point, again, to be redundant, is you've got to have criteria or metric or a rubric to go by. It can't just be open-ended program evaluation. All right. My last point on program evaluation, generally what the state has done in North Carolina in using the Teacher Working Conditions Survey, they have set the guidelines for what the state believes is important in terms of the working conditions of your school. It's a program evaluation. I pull this one. This is just one part of it. But these are the things that they would be looking for in facilities and resources. Again, objective criteria. Now, the state developed this one on their own. Again, we go back to one developed by the state. The assessment inventory that I just showed you was developed by the state. The crisis box was developed by a national group and adopted by the state. But pretty much when you're doing a program evaluation, there is a set standard or rubric or metric that you're trying to achieve. So don't reinvent the wheel. These things are generally available. Find them, and you're able to use those. But again, this is another form of program evaluation. This program is working conditions in school. So we have a variety of different ways that we can evaluate programs. This one uses survey. The crisis box uses visual. Is it there or isn't it? The assessment inventory does a walkthrough review. 3 different ways, but they're all program evaluations to collect the data to see if it's there. But the trick is knowing what data to collect. And so here are 3 examples of how we collect data. We do it by survey, we do it by observation, we do it by walkthroughs. Same as kind of teacher observations. All right. I had allotted enough time tonight to play the Johari Linda game, but since I don't have anybody online with me, I want to make sure that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. I would like to have done the Johari Linda tonight. That's a lot of fun if you have 4 or 5 people playing. But again, you can go back to that one yourself. It's on our week 6. We have one more week, week 7, before we have a week off. So next Wednesday, the 29th, please remember we're going to go earlier because that's my anniversary and I have to go to dinner that night. So next week we'll go earlier, but the video will be available. I'm doing it earlier in the afternoon. If you'd like to participate, I think I said I'd do it I believe I'm doing it at 4 that afternoon. And then the following week we will not have a session. You'll be on vacation that week, and then the following week will be the last week in terms of before the deadline. And so this is week 6. Next week is 7. We'll have a week off, and then we'll have two more weeks after the break, and we'll conclude. If you have any questions about any of the things that I cover, if you look at all of you are keeping up well with your turn-ins. In Blackboard, doing your discussion boards, please remember you only have to do 1 per week. The last week I have the one chosen for you, the Strength Finder book. You only had 2 components to turn in, 5E and 6F. You had 2 final evidences to turn in. That was your CAP and your SOP. Those should be done. You should be working mostly in TaskStream now to make sure that you finish up those final submissions. If you're having problems, go to Blackboard again. Go to Blackboard and go to TaskStream Tools. And I have some documents there that can help you. Don't hesitate to email me. Follow up with your internship supervisor and make sure that they have contacted your site supervisor if necessary and your evaluator if necessary to make sure that those evaluations are done that I covered with you earlier this evening. All right. So my half hour is up. And since I'm not going to bore you with playing the Johari window by myself. I'll just sign off tonight. Again, I will see you next week at regular time at 7 o'clock. If you have questions, call, email. I'll see you next week. Have a good evening.